Hello dear viewers. Today, we've just witnessed the sweet and emotional love story between CEO James and Diep, from heartfelt vows under the golden sunset, to the sincere blessings from family, and finally, a romantic dance beneath the starlit sky. A wedding not only beautiful to the eyes, but truly touching to the heart. If you love stories like this, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the next chapters in James and Diep's journey. The late afternoon sun cast a warm, golden hue across the coastal estate where the wedding of CEO James and Diep was about to unfold. Gentle sea breezes rustled the ivory curtains that framed the ceremony arch, while white orchids and baby's breath adorned every corner of the open-air venue. It felt like time had slowed, allowing nature itself to bear witness to the union of two hearts that had weathered storms and found their way back to each other. Guests murmured softly, their expressions alight with anticipation. Everything was perfect, from the soft strains of classical music to the delicate scent of jasmine in the air. But all eyes turned when Diep appeared at the end of the aisle, her silhouette illuminated by the last golden rays of the sun. She was breathtaking. Clad in a gown of flowing silk and fine lace, she moved with the grace of someone completely at peace. Her veil fluttered lightly with the breeze, and in her hands, she held a bouquet of white peonies, James' favorite. At the altar, James stood motionless, his usually composed expression replaced by something softer, more vulnerable. He had built an empire with his mind and hands, but today, he was just a man, utterly captivated by the woman walking toward him. Their eyes met, and in that gaze was every memory they had lived together, late-night talks, silent support during stressful days, the gentle comfort of shared dreams. When Diep reached him, James took her hand with quiet reverence, as if touching something sacred. Neither spoke, their silence more eloquent than any words. The officiant began to speak, but even his voice seemed like background music compared to the emotions rippling through the air. Their vows were personal, handwritten. James' voice wavered slightly as he looked into Diep's eyes. "I have led teams, built companies, and made impossible decisions. But nothing in this world has ever felt as certain and as right as you. From this moment on, I'm not just choosing you, I'm promising to never stop choosing you, every day, for the rest of my life." Diep's reply was gentle, yet firm, her voice unwavering. "I don't want a perfect story. I want real mornings with you, quiet nights by your side, and the kind of life that's built not by grand gestures but by shared moments. You are my calm, my fire, my home." As they exchanged rings, a hush fell over the gathering. The sun, now low on the horizon, painted the sky in hues of rose and amber. When James leaned forward and pressed a kiss on Diep's forehead, the entire garden seemed to exhale in contentment. Applause broke out, joyful, sincere, and full of love. Rose petals rained gently from above, released from hidden silk canopies, creating a dreamlike shower of blessings. The couple turned to face their guests, now husband and wife, glowing with the kind of happiness that doesn't demand attention but naturally draws it. And in that perfect moment, framed by the ocean, embraced by twilight, and surrounded by the people they cherished, James and Diep stepped into a new chapter. Not just as a couple, but as soulmates who had finally come home to each other. As the ceremony drew to a close and the golden light melted into twilight, the reception garden came alive with laughter, clinking glasses, and soft music playing beneath the soft hum of fairy lights. The air buzzed not just with celebration, but with a sense of something deeply meaningful. This wasn't just a wedding. It was the beginning of a family fully coming together. Just as the newlyweds finished their first round of greetings, a quiet stir moved through the crowd. From the garden's arched entrance, two familiar figures appeared, lytuca and CEO Hung, James's younger sister and brother. Though they hadn't stood at the altar or spoken during the ceremony, their presence now drew every eye with a quiet intensity. They walked forward with grace and calm, not as guests, but as family, carrying with them the weight of shared memories, childhood bonds, and silent support that had always existed between siblings, even when unspoken. James spotted them first, and for a moment, something unreadable flickered across his face, relief, maybe, or gratitude. Then his eyes softened into a smile, the kind only family could draw out of him. Diep, sensing the emotion in her husband's gaze, turned just in time to see them approach. No elaborate speeches were needed. Lytuca stepped forward, her smile warm and unguarded, and reached for Diep's hands. "Welcome," she said simply, her voice low but full of sincerity. "You're not just his wife now. You're our family." Then she leaned in and gave her sister-in-law a gentle embrace, one that spoke volumes more than any toast or fancy gift could offer. CEO Hung followed with his usual calm presence, his words brief but purposeful. He placed a hand on James's shoulder and said, "You've always taken care of us. It's good to see someone finally taking care of you." Then, turning toward Diep, he added, "He chose well. And so did we." His nod was quiet approval, but in the eyes of his family, it meant everything. It wasn't just the words that mattered, it was the emotion behind them, the unspoken message that Diep was not marrying into a business legacy or a powerful family name, but into a circle of love built through loyalty, hardship, and resilience. As the siblings stood beside the couple, a photographer called out gently, asking for a family photo. The four of them, James, Diep, Tieu, and Hung, gathered closely, arms interlinked, smiles effortlessly blooming. The camera captured not just an image, but a moment, a union of not two, but four lives now bound by something deeper than names. The guests clapped and cheered, sensing the subtle shift in energy, the warmth, the affection, the genuine bonds being honored. Glasses were lifted again. The string quartet picked up the melody of an old love song, and the evening continued, now lit not just by lanterns, but by the glow of connected hearts. And as Diep looked at the siblings beside her, she knew with quiet certainty, this love wasn't just hers and James's. It was shared, supported, and embraced by those who truly mattered. Family, after all, wasn't something you simply married into, it was something that welcomed you home. As night fell over the coastal estate, the garden transformed into a scene from a dream. Strings of golden fairy lights wove through tall olive trees, and soft lanterns floated gently above the reception, casting warm halos over each guest. The air was sweet with the scent of roses and sea breeze, and somewhere in the distance, the waves whispered like an eternal blessing. In the center of it all stood James and Diep, now husband and wife, surrounded by the people who mattered most. Their hands remained tightly clasped, as if neither wanted to let go of the moment. The music shifted into something slower, more intimate, a classic melody that wrapped around the couple like a gentle embrace. James took the lead, guiding Diep to the center of the garden floor. They began to dance, not with grand choreography or rehearsed steps, but with the quiet rhythm of two souls that had long moved in sync. Their gazes locked, their smiles soft and private. Around them, the world faded, leaving only the shimmer of candlelight and the hush of love too deep for words. It was a dance that spoke of everything they had been through, of nights apart and reunions full of fire, of silent strength and whispered hope. Each sway in turn echoed promises already made, and others that needed no voice. James leaned in and whispered something into Diep's ear. Whatever he said made her laugh softly, her eyes glowing with warmth that no diamond could ever match. From a quiet corner of the garden, lytuca and Hung watched with gentle smiles. Neither said much, but the meaning was clear. Their brother had found not just success or status, but something far rarer: peace, belonging, and love. The kind that steadies a man. The kind that softens even the strongest. Soon, other couples joined the floor, laughter rising like sparks from a fire. But for James and Diep, the world remained quiet and still. Their foreheads touched as the music played on, and everything else, the lights, the guests, the grandeur, became background to the simple truth that pulsed between them. As the final note of the song faded, James placed a gentle kiss on Diep's forehead. It wasn't showy. It wasn't for anyone else. It was a familiar gesture, the same one he gave her during late nights at the office, during storms, during moments when words weren't enough. And tonight, it said everything: I'm here. I'm yours. Always. Diep leaned into him, resting her head against his chest, where his heart beat steady and strong. Around them, the party continued, music playing, glasses clinking, stories being shared. But for the couple in the center of it all, the only thing that mattered had already happened. They had arrived, finally, at forever. Above them, the stars watched in silence, glittering like witnesses. The night was far from over, But for James and Diep, the most beautiful part had just begun. A life no longer lived in parallel, but together as one.